Hey everyone, Tony D and Little Joan here. Some good news for me. It turns out I don't have COVID. Yes, I found a testing place my dad told me about in Atlantic City, which was a bit of a drive for me. But they were able to give me results like that. Cost me $139, but now I know I don't have COVID, and I actually still have the cold, but at least I don't have COVID. So I figure I'm going to do power sleep before Christmas Eve tomorrow. Get really some good rest. What time is it now? 8:30 when I'm recording this. I'm gonna sack out at 10. I'm gonna try to sleep till 10 and just get super rested. That's usually my plan. Um, so Merry Christmas to me. And Little Joan. Little Joan's coming too, right? Little Joan, we're gonna go Christmas. Christmas time. Little Joan gets so excited when she sees people. We went for walkies and she just went bananas when she saw some people, but I didn't know if I had COVID. And so the one woman who was walking down the streets who she saw, she wanted to get pet from. So she's like, and I'm like, well, Joan, we really should meet that woman because I might be sick. So we kind of had to avoid it. So, but in not as happy news, but I'm not really sure at this point. There's conflicting information about Pence. What's the deal with Pence? No one's quite sure. This is from, I think, the National File. Yeah. I would say these guys are kind of right wing. Now, there's a report, and it's just a report that they're reporting about, that Pence is backing away from Trump. That they're arguing. See, I don't know if I believe it. It's a report from Axios, which isn't really right wing. And they're citing sources that Trump is angry with many of the supposed allies who are not fighting the good fight. Now, that part of it I believe, but I'm not sure if it's Pence. Pence seems to be doing stuff. You know, the Lincoln Project did an ad which claims Pence is backing away from Trump. I find it hard to believe that Trump would just believe that on its face and get mad at Pence. You know, because the Lincoln Project, those guys they're total snakes, in my view. Total snakes. Not to be trusted at all. And and here's the big but, the vice president has planned a trip to Israel, Bahrain, and Poland with a departure date set for January 6th, the same day he's meant to chair a joint session of Congress and tabulate and verify the Electoral College votes. One Pence ally told Politico that the timing of the trip is, quote, anything but coincidental. Not sure what that means. On the one hand, you could see him maybe giving it to Trump, getting on a plane and getting the hell out of Dodge. On the other hand, he could give it to Biden, get on a plane and get the hell out of Dodge. Kind of could go either way. Although I wouldn't expect Pence to be able to make his flight if the protesters come out in the numbers that Alex Jones is calling for. Alex Jones is calling for 10 million Trump fans to come to D.C. Personally, I don't know if I can make it now. Now that I'm sick, I was contemplating on going, and I really can't go because I took off prior to that. So, but here's the thing: if I was sick with COVID, I could go, or I'd be off, but then I couldn't go. So I don't know if I'm going to be over this in like a day or two, or if it's going to drag out and get worse, and you know. So either way, I think I'm out for actually showing up. I just don't think I can make it work. and it sucks because I don't live that far away. Maybe like a 2-hour ride, 2-3 hours. I could probably try to get there by like 6 p.m., but that sounds too late. It sounds like it'll all be over by then. So for my part, I'm going to be rooting for the Trump fans here and making videos and hopefully covering a historic moment when Trump somehow does this. There is time, though. I mean, you know, I just watched Rudy's video. Rudy Giuliani has his video. And, yeah, moving ahead with these cases. So, hopefully, if enough claims come out, if we could just overturn one of the states, if one state goes, that opens the door. Opens the door to give Pence coverage, to give other states coverage, other state electors coverage, and then the tide could really shift that. But we have to flip over a state. Rudy's talking about Wisconsin again. So, in Wisconsin, the deal was people with who are bedridden, and they had something like 20,000 in the previous election, and it jumped up to 200,000. So the question is, are all those extra 180,000 bedridden people legit? I believe they already found one that wasn't, who worked for the Biden campaign. So, you know, out of 180,000 some odd bedridden people, if they could find about a little over 10,000, that would be enough. That would be enough to flip the state. So, Wisconsin's looking good again. Who knows? But, what the heck are you doing with these ads? Some weird stuff is happening. And I think this may be a precursor to whatever China has up its sleeve to go after America. This is from the American Thinker. Unexplained explosion in fire destroy world's second largest pharmaceutical factory producing precursors for hydrochloroquine. Now, some of you say, that stuff doesn't work anyway. Hey, it's good enough for Trump, good enough for a billionaire, I'll friggin' take it. In fact, that's what I was researching before I got my beer virus test. But now, this factory, which is located in Taiwan, by the way, mysteriously just blows up. That sounds to me like China. That sounds like 100% Chinese espionage. Because it's in Taiwan, their agents have an easier time to infiltrate. It's something they don't want Taiwan to be independent. And this screws us. This screws us big time. Because the hydrochloroquine controversy was mostly over at this point. People are finally reluctantly saying, no, they're coming around to the idea of using this as at least a partial treatment. Now at one of the major factories that make it blow up, it's very suspicious to me. And I think that's China, 100%. So what does this have to do with the election? Well, I think the Chinese are going to turn on as much pressure as possible, regardless of who gets in. Now, maybe they might back off of Biden for a little bit, but I doubt it. There's really no reason to. If anything, they want to kick up the heat while they're smiling and shaking his hand, stuff like this, to put the pressure on him. And Biden just continues to be a total cluster F, in my view. Joe Biden, public colleges and universities are going to be tuition free for families earning less than $125K. This is dumb. I don't know where you're going to get the money for this. I mean, this will just destroy the dollar. This is like a lot of money. And what's the point? What's the point of a free college education? College is free in Mexico. College is free in a lot of countries. You know what their degrees are worth here? Bupkis. And for some colleges, for most colleges around the world, there's a reason for that. You're degrading the educational system by doing this. I mean, it's already a woke mess anyway. Um, but this is sort of an overall strategy on the left, I think, to get as many people in the colleges, because that's where the real indoctrination begins, right? That's where like, you don't have to worry about the parents anymore. You can really brainwash the college kids because they make their own decisions. They're grown adults. So this is just a dumb idea. It's really dumb. You should have your brain examined if you're going to go to college now. Really, it's just, there's only two reasons to go to college. One is you want to be in a profession where you have to go to college, like, and I don't mean gender studies or any of that BS. Like, you want to be a lawyer or a doctor or something like that. The other reason is you just want to continue college. If you're gender studies, like, basically you're just going to teach more gender studies or write books that are going to be used in gender studies classes. There's no, in my view, practical application unless, well, unfortunately, a guy like Biden's going to open a door to having these people in every major corporation to spread their nonsense. So look forward to that. Joe Biden, I can work with Republicans once Donald Trump is out of the way. Sadly, this is kind of true because the rhinos are lining up already to work with Biden. Ugh, such a creepy picture, isn't it? He is creepy when that picture. Yeah, he's going to work with them because he's going to say, okay, here's how we divvy up the money. Here's how we divvy up the taxpayer money. There's not going to be any limit on the amount of scams you'll be able to pull under Biden, because he'll be the biggest scammer of all. I mean, he's compromised. Everybody he wants around him will be compromised. There's no justice other than who Biden determines gets justice. He is, a plague upon humanity. Not yet, but soon to be if he gets in. I hope Trump can stop him. I really do. But the uptick is he's not going to be in very long. It'll be Kamala who will then be the plague. While Joe Biden laughs at you. Joe Biden mocks questions about Hunter as mainstream media remains largely uninterested. Ari Fleischer said Biden knows he can get away with it, laughing off questions about his son. Yeah, sure. He'll never have to worry about a press conference. These guys have been carrying his water through the entire campaign. They're not going to stop once he's president. But people are going to stop watching those channels, that's for sure. They're just going to stop watching. At least with Trump, they may have hated Trump, but Trump was interesting. Biden's not interesting. And when they try to prop him up as interesting and as wonderful and doing all these great things, even as their taxes go up and jobs go away, it's just not going to work. And people will see what's left of the media for what it is. It's, propaganda arm. They're not helping Biden by doing this. They're helping hasten his destruction. So they will seek other sources of information, and they'll turn to YouTube and BitChute and all these other places. Unfortunately, that's when they'll make us really go away. That's when they'll get us off of YouTube, but then they'll start hunting down all the other places as well. I think BitChute will probably be the first foreign one to go because it's in the UK. Although there was a recent court case on freedom of speech in the UK that gives everybody some hope. So maybe not, but we'll see. For myself, I don't have enough of a following yet. Like, Sticks and Hammer, he has such a massive following, and then he's spread it over other platforms. He really has quite a bit of power in that area and influence. So that's what I hope to get one day. I got to work on my videos. Right, Joan? I put up the sign. The sign's good. Now everybody knows who Joan of Arc is. So when I say the name, they don't go, what? But in the meantime, this is what you can expect in the future. Profs face firing for ripping funding of social justice activities at public college. Yeah, you're screwed if you're teaching at a state college or public college. And this is California's Bakersfield College. Imagine how stupid the social justice activities had to be for a professor at California's Bakersfield College to actually say something, to actually object. Matthew Garrett and Erin Miller are accused of making defamatory statements about two other professors related to the funding of, quote, social justice initiatives. The Administrative Determination Report by Christopher Hine, General Counsel with Kern Community College District, found that Garrett and Miller, quote, engaged in unprofessional conduct at a 2019 event. Well, it doesn't say what it is. Oh, got to read the full story here. All right. WND doesn't actually have stories. All right. So what'd they do? The duo accused Oliver Rosales and Andrew Bond of improperly using grant monies at the Social Justice Institute, a nonpartisan college organization co-founded by President Sonia Christensen and Bakersfield Mayor Harvey Hall. But their lawyer told the College Fix that Garrett and Miller were simply stating their disagreement about how the funds were being allocated. Even, quote, the investigation concluded that much of what Professor Garrett was saying was protected speech under the First Amendment. Yeah, so this is why I was really close to trying to become a college professor. I was going to get my master's and try to teach writing, but I could see it just from the process of trying to like apply and talking to people. It's nuts on college campuses right now. It's just absolutely nuts. And I would have ended up an adjunct doing a bunch of grunt work and probably being forced to, grade people for their idiot social justice essays. F that. I think I'd rather starve. And really it goes back to K to 12 education, which is it's just a mess. San Diego schools eliminate grading in anti-racist education push. See, grades are racist. If you got a low grade and you're a certain race, then they're racist. See, nobody can be stupid in K to 12. You can't say a kid's stupid. You can't say a kid's bad. You can't discipline kids anymore. There's no room in the school system to discipline anybody over anything except woke BS that nobody cares about other than the woke people. And really, that's not about disciplining the kids. That's just looking woke. District officials in San Diego evidently believe that the practice of grading students based on average scores is racist. Yeah, they probably do. A bunch of them do. Let's see. This is part of our honest reckoning as a school district, Vice President Richard Barrera told NBC affiliate. If we're actually going to be an anti-racist school district, we have to confront practices like this that have gone on for years and years. These changes of San Diego schools' grading system are an excellent example of bureaucracy citing a noble-sounding goal, who could be against anti-racism, to justify a policy that doesn't address the issue whatsoever. After all, eliminating these kinds of grades won't eliminate the underlying inequities that produce the disparate failure rates. Just 7% of whites receive failing grades compared to 23% of Native Americans, 23% of Hispanics, and 20% of black students. I wonder if they're adding Asians into whites now, because there was some chatter about that. That people in the gender-obsessed community, let's call it, were now trying to group Asians into the white category since Asian students tended to do better. But who knows? I mean, they just won't be happy until literally everybody gets the same grade every single time and learns nothing. When everybody is a C average student and their brains are completely numb and they repeat nothing but woke BS, then they'll be happy. Then these teachers will be happy because then they can report to their superiors. They've done exactly as they've been told. The students will leave with no education whatsoever, but they'll be happy. This is what you get with government schools run by zealots. And this is why you shouldn't have government schools. We should get rid of government schools. We should privatize them all. We should sell off, the buildings and all the assets to companies at a fair market rate. Let them take over the school system. Let them do all different things, and then stop funding the schools. Let the parents have their property taxes back, and let them pay for school. So, in the state of New Jersey, property taxes, most of it goes to schools. So my property tax is about, I think it's about $7,000 a year. Probably like $5,000 goes to schools. I mean, that would just, that would make it so cheap to own a house, right? I mean, my taxes were higher than my mortgage payment when me and my ex moved in here, and my God, if we eliminated that to like $100 a month, life would be great, and it would be easier on people, especially older people who don't have a lot of money, because they wouldn't have to pay this onerous tax burden. Now, for the parents, you might say, oh my God, but then the parents will have to pay $5,000 a year. Not all parents have that. It wouldn't be that much. Because we have to understand is, it wouldn't just be one school. There would be multiple schools, and they would compete with each other. And they could find ways, because they're a private entity, to cut costs. And they would. Some of the schools would probably get into half of showing up and half not showing up. I'll tell you one thing a private school probably would do. They would probably eliminate athletics. And what you could do is then take that out of the school and let private individuals fund it. They'd have no problem funding it. Local businesses would fund it, and you could have local leagues, and you would get that out of the schools. And I have no problem with that. I think it would be, it would lower the cost of the school's grounds. They could sell off part of the land. You could have private individuals run the sports programs. You could work with the schools, and it would give the school more flexibility. If a lot of the extraneous school stuff was just cut and it was just about the education, plus with the internet, I mean, kids wouldn't have to show up to school every day. You could have a situation where the school runs certain days a week, and then the rest of the week you're in a library studying, or maybe you're at home. Now, for some parents, that's no good, but I mean, you could work things out. I mean, $5,000 a year sounds like a lot, but you're already paying that much. And if your kid does well, you could get scholarships, and some poor kids would end up at crappy schools, but they're already at crappy schools. Some poor kids are going to end up in crappy schools but they're not going to cost a lot of money. But you know what? A crappy school run by a private organization would probably be better, because it would try to just get the kids a basic education, right? It wouldn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but it would at least get the kid out the door with some basics to survive and get a job. If he was, if he worked hard and bettered himself, he would get into a better school, because he could get a scholarship. That's the way it would be treated. That's the system I see. The system we have now is just ridiculous. It's based on where you live. The school year is based on a summer calendar that goes back to the days when people used to go back for the harvest. I mean, we're not an agricultural society anymore. We don't need to go by that schedule. Half the time, the school just ends up being a babysitter. And if you want a school like that, I'm sure there'd be models where that would happen, at least very much in the beginning. I think in the beginning it would be very much like regular school, but then it would transform. And if your kid got no education and you could sue the school and you wouldn't be suing yourself. See, if you sue the school system now, you're just screwing it up for everybody. You're making, you're just getting money from the state, which you already pay for. And, if you have to sue a school over your kid's education or treatment or whatever, you'd be suing a private company. And they'd probably have more money. They probably could pay the teachers better, and you probably wouldn't have as many problems. And a private company can do more. It can do things the government can't do. A government, they have to cater to everybody. A private school doesn't have to. They don't have to put up with your S. They don't have to put up with anything. So, and you could have religion in the school if you wanted. I mean, there are religious schools already. You could have, you could have a super woke school if that's what you want, like the wokest school imaginable. You could have something that's super traditional, whatever you want. I mean, the sky would be the limit. But this kind of nonsense just drives you nuts. I mean, you could have this and see how well the students do and then compare it to the other schools. I think this school is doomed. I think this is the dumbest idea I've ever heard. I think it's going to just destroy kids, mentally. And they're going to come out of school with no education, obsessed with gender and race and, wokeness. But unfortunately, that's probably what we're going to get under a Biden administration, unless unless Pence saves the day. And I've said before, Pence, it's now or never. And that's my biggest reason why I think there's a really good chance Pence will do this, because otherwise it's over for him. I don't see any political career or any political future. You're talking all the Trump fans will not just abandon Pence, but hate him and blame him forever. Trump would if Trump runs in 2024, there's no way he could have Pence as a running mate. No way. No. He'd have to get a new guy, and he probably would anyway. But Pence would be so hated, he couldn't run for office. Forget about going to Fox News or getting a TV show or anything like that. He might as well just retire at that point. Maybe he's planning on doing that. But I think if he fights for Trump and makes a good decision, I think he'll be a hero. I think it's an upshot either way you do it. If Pence does it and Trump gets in and fights off any, conflicting stuff, whatever you want to call it, and they stay in for 4 years, he's a hero. If they somehow impeach Trump and then impeach Pence, he'll still be a hero, and they'll elect him, and Pence could waltz in to the White House in 2024 if he does that. There would be no question that Trump fans would vote for him. They would say, Mike was there for Trump, we have to be there for Mike. So after watching Trump yesterday, I'm pumped again. I am. So we'll see how it goes. Will it be Trump 2 or the grinning skull that is Joe Biden? We shall see. Merry Christmas.